Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sundays with Sully. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you had a wonderful Father's Day weekend and got out on the water and enjoyed yourself. If you haven't done so yet, here's the spiel, guys. Make sure to give us a like and a follow on YouTube and Instagram at Navtronics to stay up to date and in the know of the latest happenings in the marine industry. All right, so if you watched last week's, you know this week we are talking about Airmar's Smartboat and that black box. A couple episodes back, a couple months ago, we actually got up with them at their factory in New Hampshire, and we talked about what that product can do. Well, now we are going to be implementing that on board the boat today. So let's go a quick little refresher on that. Prior to Smartboat, if you wanted to get your engine data into the N2K network, if you had like on this old boat here where everything's analog and not a J1939 motor, you had to purchase something like this from Airmar, which is an ActiSense EMU. Now, this is a great unit. This can take in TAC and up to 6 analog sensors. So this comes in there. This is not a quick and easy program. It's not hard, but it's also not something, if you've never done anything at the NEMA before, this is not something that you want to try and tackle on your own right out of the gate. Smartboat, on the other hand, makes it so much easier. They can take in analog senders, so if you have an ohms resistance or a voltage, 0 to 5 voltage, and you can come in via a web address and go ahead and log in and set all of those things up. So in our particular case here, we're going to finally be monitoring our fuel tanks, because fuel tanks on this boat had the old boiler glass style sight glasses on them without a real true fuel gauge. Well, there was one on one tank and it kind of worked half the time. So we're going to alleviate that problem now. We're actually going to go ahead and use a pressure sender, and we're going to adapt that in to the sight glass fitting itself, so that way we can go ahead, fill our fuel tank up, say at that pressure, that's full, it knows that at 0 pressure, the tank is empty, and we'll now be able to monitor both of our fuel tanks. We'll also be able to work with Airmar and do their fuel flow meters. And a really nice feature with their fuel flow is this is a 2-chamber setup, meaning built into one unit on a diesel, we can do the flow and the return. So you've got inbound and return. With diesel, it's always taking in more fuel than it can use, and it's always returning it, so you need to monitor the round trip of that fuel to make sure that you're getting a proper fuel burn calculation off of it. Plus, you can take in engine data gauges. Those are, again, going to be our analog, resistive, or ohms, oil pressure, temp, all those kind of things. So we've got all of that going on as well. So without further ado, guys, let's hop down in the engine room and I'll show you guys what we've got going on board this install, and then I'll show you guys how easy it is to program with the Smartboat system. So let's go down and check it out. All right, guys, welcome down into the engine space here. And if you look over here, you're going to see a pair of the Airmar Smartboat boxes. We have a T1 and a T2 box. Now, each of these boxes are going to be doing different functions. There are different boxes, what they call them a T1, T2, different features on them. In our case, on this one, on our T1 box, that is where we are going to be plugging in our sensors for the pressure sensors for our fuel tank. You can see we have sensors A through here, sensors B through here with numbers, and then we have thermocouplers right there. We'll go over what these all mean here in a second. And then if we go over to this one here, you're going to see we have a different setup on this one. Starting at the bottom, we have relays, sensors, and run detect. And you can see I've got some things starting to populate into there as well. So talk about real quick on the run detect side and the relay side, we can get sensors if things like a bilge pump turns on, we can tie into that and get an alert that the bilge pump is running on there. Another cool thing we have on here is relays, so we can do an if this then that type of a scenario. So that means like I have a temp probe on the back space back there in the engine room. So if the engine starts getting too warm, the engine space gets too warm, I can automatically have it turn on the blower motor for me. I just wire that in via a relay. Now if I say, it gets above 105 degrees, go ahead, turn that blower on. When it gets below 105, turn the blower off. So now if I'll go out in the water, I don't have to worry about turning it on. As a nice bonus, I can leave the boat at the end of the day. That blower stays on. Once the temperature drops down low enough, it then turns automatically off. But it keeps that airflow in here. It keeps this space a little nicer down here. So we've got that functionality there. And we've got, speaking of those temperature probes, I've gone ahead and got a bunch of those plugged in right here. We're doing a total of 4. So on these motors, again, analog, don't have a lot of data coming through on them. I want to be able to keep track of my exhaust temp. The reason I want my exhaust temp is that's going to give me a good indicator if I've got good water flow coming through from my raw water pump. So if I just take one of those temp senders on a hose clamp and put it on the bottom of the exhaust hose, right near the exhaust outlet from the engine itself, that's going to allow me to keep track on the temperature. If that temperature starts getting too high, well then, gee, I must not be getting enough water flow, and we can keep tabs on it, and I can know ahead of time before I totally roach an impeller, hopefully. And we already talked about having the one for back there in the engine space for the engine room blower to turn on. So we've got all of that going on there as well. And there's also the fuel flow meters here. So we've got our own private network here. This looks like NEMA, acts like NEMA, but it's a private network. It's got its own power. I've gone ahead and labeled this for starboard and port motor, and then a cable that's going to come over here and go down into our Smartboat. That's on its own private network, and then obviously we have our NEMA plug here for both of those boxes as well. So what goes on that private network? You can see I've got it broken out by engines. Well, that's one of the things here is they have the fuel flow meter on here, and this is, like I said, this is that all-in-one. Instead of having to have 2 units on it and calibrate it, this comes already pre-calibrated. This is from Airmar, plugs right into their network, and it's really easy to set up. Now, I mentioned this network thing repeatedly, and it looks like NEMA because that's a NEMA cable right there. You plug this into NEMA, it's not going to do anything for you guys. You do need a Smartboat module in order to get the fuel flow to work and show up. So we've got all of that there. So now what I'm going to do is show you just how easy this thing is to log on and do your updates and dial this thing all into exactly what it is you want. So if I do my editing right here, let's cut to the screen and see what's good. All right, guys, so it's very easy to actually do here. If we go into our Wi-Fi and we see right out of the gate there, we have these ASM, CES, T1, and T2 boxes right there. I've gone ahead and I've selected the T2 from there, and that T2 is actually meshed together with T1 so I communicate with both of them. I very simply type in an IP address here, and each one of these is going to have its own designated IP address. In our case, 192.168.2.1. I can come in here and I can see what's going on, and I can come into my configuration page of my devices on my T2, which has my thermistors on it. And I can look there and see I've already set up a port engine, a starboard engine, and an engine room one, and we see that they are reading properly. But if I want to go in here and just set one up, let's say my engine space one, I want to change the name on it. I go configure the device. It's going to come up here right in the description. I can go ahead and change the name on this to whatever I want. So let's just say I call that my engine space. And then I can say what temperature, what units do I want it in, Fahrenheit, Celsius. I can change my minimum and my maximum temperatures right there. And then the other cool thing I get to do right here is I can go ahead and it says my temperature source. I can change whatever I want that to be right there very easily. And then when I'm all done with that, I say continue. And there we go. It's going to say, okay, is this device active? We click on yes. And we're going to ask what instance. Because this is the engine space, it's just going to be a 0. I'm not going to go too deep into what instances are in NEMA right now. And then we're going to go ahead and it's going to ask us what PGNs we want to send out there. Again, more NEMA stuff. We say save, and there we go. It's going to go back. It's going to 0 all of these back out as it goes ahead and resends that. And now it's going to come back up, and we're going to get our temperature settings here. There you go. There's now all our temp sending is back. So that's it, guys. I know that's a lot to take in on Smartboat, and this is just literally the tip of the iceberg. We're going to go out, we're going to get on the water, we're going to put this thing through its paces and show you guys just how all of this integrates, what does it look like on the MFD screen, and all of that good stuff. So if you want to know more about Smartboat and the Airmar Smartboat, leave it down below in the comments so when we do our follow-up on this one, we can hopefully get those answered for you. So that's it. That's all I've got for this week's Sundays with Sully. Next weekend, I think we're rolling into the holiday weekend already. I think 4th of July is coming up, so not an episode then. We come back after that. I think we're probably doing FLIR camera comparison, or we're doing Charles props. I haven't decided which one's going to come out there, and then we'll probably do some more Smartboat stuff for you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you found this informative. As always, I gotta say it, make sure to give us a like and a follow and a subscribe down below, down there somewhere. Doesn't cost you anything. It helps us out a ton, and you guys get alerts on when we drop new videos. So, oh yeah, we're also gonna have a phenomenal Bat Cove 390 walkthrough of the one of one. It's an extreme. If you haven't been following it, every Friday we've been dropping videos on this boat. This is truly the most extreme Bat Cove 390 I think in existence. So if you want something to watch, go check those videos out too. We'll see you guys 2 weeks, I guess. Peace.